1,400 kilometers west of Europe, in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, something impossible rises from the sea. Nine volcanic islands, green craters filled with mirrored lakes, a mountain taller than anything on the Portuguese mainland, standing alone in open ocean. Travelers who find these islands often say the same thing, that it feels like discovering a paradise the rest of the world forgot. They are called the Azores Islands, and they belong to Portugal, though they feel like a planet of their own. Here the earth still breathes, steam rises from the ground, waterfalls pour straight into the Atlantic. Whales pass through these waters in numbers found almost nowhere else on Earth. For 600 years, sailors have known about the Azores, and yet, most Europeans today still cannot point to them on a map. Researchers now warn that parts of this volcanic paradise may not exist as we know it within decades. This is the story of 9 islands built by fire, shaped by the ocean, and hidden in plain sight at the edge of Europe. This is the Azores, Europe's secret volcanic Eden. The most photographed image of the Azores is also the strangest. On the western edge of São Miguel, the largest island, a single volcanic crater holds 2 lakes side by side. One is blue, the other is green, and nobody who sees them in person ever forgets. The crater is 4 kilometers wide, 350 meters deep, a bowl so vast that from its rim, the village at the lake's edge looks like a toy model dropped into another world. Local legend tells of a shepherd and a princess forbidden to love by a tyrannical king. Their final tears formed the 2 lakes, blue from the princess's eyes, green from the shepherd's. Scientists offer a quieter explanation: depth, vegetation, and the way sunlight refracts through water of different clarity. But standing on the edge of the crater, the legend feels closer to the truth. Travelers gather at 2 viewpoints: Vista do Rei, the King's View, where the full sweep of both lakes fills the horizon, and Boca do Inferno, the Hell's Mouth, a narrow ridge that locals call the most dramatic lookout in the entire archipelago. Between the two sits a ruin, the Monte Palace Hotel, abandoned since the 1990s. Its broken windows still frame the view it was built to command. Sete Cidades is listed among the 7 natural wonders of Portugal, and yet most visitors who come here say the same thing, that the photographs do not prepare you for the scale. But Sete Cidades is only the overture. Just 30 kilometers east, the ground itself is alive. In the heart of São Miguel lies a village that sits directly on top of one of the most active geothermal areas on the planet. It is called Furnas. The valley floor is scattered with fumaroles, hot springs, bubbling mud pools the locals call calderas. Steam rises from cracks in the stone, carrying the sharp scent of sulfur into the morning air. And here travelers encounter one of the most remarkable culinary traditions in Europe. It is called cozido das Furnas, a stew of meat, cabbage, potatoes, and sausage, sealed in a metal pot, lowered into the volcanic earth, and cooked for hours by the heat of the magma itself. No fire, no oven, just the sleeping giant beneath. Above ground, visitors soak in the thermal pools of Terra Nostra Park. The water here is rust-colored from iron minerals, kept at a steady 35 degrees Celsius, and surrounded by botanical gardens planted over 2 centuries ago. Nearby, the smaller Poça de Dona Beija offers open-air bathing pools in the forest, fed by the same underground heat. At the edge of Furnas Valley sits Lagoa das Furnas, a crater lake so still it mirrors the clouds. On its western shore, a neo-Gothic chapel called Nossa Senhora das Vitórias rises from the water's edge, its red brickwork softened by centuries of moss. Volcanologists monitor Furnas constantly. The caldera is considered active. Its last major eruption was in 1630. But the people who live here have made a different kind of peace with the earth. They have learned to eat from it, to bathe in it, to live with the heat that could one day return. Furnas whispers its volcanic heart, but higher up the island, another crater keeps a secret almost no one photographs. At the center of São Miguel, hidden in the Água de Pau mountain range, lies a lake most travelers never reach. Its name is Lagoa do Fogo, the Lake of Fire. It was born 15,000 years ago, when the volcano beneath it collapsed into itself. Today, the crater holds a shoreline of pale sand, wrapped in cliffs and dense laurel forest, completely protected from development. Not a single building stands on its shore, not a road, not a cafe. Lagoa de Fogo has been listed among the 10 most beautiful wild beaches in the world. It is part of the Natura 2000 protected network, and locals call it the last untouched lake of the Azores. The hike down to the shore takes about 40 minutes. The climb back up is steep, but travelers who make the descent often describe the same feeling, that they have stepped into a landscape older than memory. Near the lake sits another secret, Caldera Velha, a series of natural thermal pools surrounded by Jurassic-looking vegetation, fed by waterfalls of warm volcanic water. ferns the size of small trees, red iron streaming through the rock, steam drifting through the forest canopy. Just above Lagoa do Fogo, a hiking trail called Janela do Inferno leads travelers through lava tunnels, past ancient aqueducts, to a narrow gap in the cliffs that frames the crater like a window. Lagoa do Fogo is São Miguel's best-kept secret. But to find the greatest secret of all, travelers must leave the largest island and head into the heart of the Atlantic. "150 kilometers west of São Miguel, something remarkable rises from the ocean. A perfect triangular peak, rising straight out of the Atlantic, cloaked in cloud, climbing to 2,351 meters above sea level. This is Mount Pico, and it is the highest point in all of Portugal. Not on the mainland, not in Lisbon, not in the Serra da Estrela, but here, on a small volcanic island in the middle of the ocean. The mountain gives its name to the island that surrounds it, Pico, the second largest in the Azores archipelago. Climbers who attempt the summit describe it as one of the most grueling hikes in Europe. The trail is only 3.5 kilometers long, but it rises more than 1,100 meters straight up through volcanic scree, jagged basalt, and thinning air. At the top, fumaroles still release wisps of steam. The volcano is not dead, only resting. On a clear day, the summit offers a 360-degree view of the neighboring islands of Faial, São Jorge, and Graciosa, set against the infinite blue of the Atlantic. But Pico's greatest treasure is not its peak. It is what grows at its feet. Running along the coast, thousands of small rectangular plots have been carved into the black lava fields. Each one is surrounded by a low wall of rough, dark stone. Inside, vines. This is the landscape of the Pico Island vineyard culture, a UNESCO World Heritage Site since 2004. 500 years of winemaking in volcanic soil, where basalt walls shield each vine from the Atlantic wind. The wine produced here, especially the Verdelho variety, was once exported to the tables of Russian Tsars. Pico reaches for the sky, but across the channel, another island guards the Azores' darkest drama. On the westernmost tip of Faial, a lighthouse stands half buried in ash. Its windows are sealed with volcanic debris. Its lower floors lie under meters of compacted rock. Around it, a lunar landscape stretches to the sea, black, silent, scarred. This is Capelinhos, And in 1957, this stretch of coast did not exist. For 13 months, starting on the 27th of September, 1957, a submarine volcano erupted offshore. First, it built a new island from the ocean floor. Then, as the eruption continued, the island fused with Faial itself, adding more than 2 square kilometers of new land to the coast. The lighthouse, once surrounded by green fields, was slowly swallowed by ash and pumice. Villages were evacuated, farms were buried, entire communities watched their homes disappear under volcanic fallout. In the years that followed, the United States passed the Azorean Refugee Act. It granted emergency visas to thousands of Azoreans displaced by the eruption. Entire families resettled in Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and California. Today, more people of Azorean descent live in North America than on the islands themselves. The lighthouse still stands. It has been preserved exactly as the eruption left it, a silent monument to the power of the earth. Beneath the ash field, visitors can now descend into the Capelinhos Interpretation Center, an underground museum built directly into the volcanic landscape, where the walls themselves are part of the exhibit. Walking through Capelinhos today, travelers often describe a feeling of standing on another planet. The ash is soft underfoot, the wind carries fine black dust across the cliffs, and in the distance, the Atlantic continues as if nothing ever happened. Faial's wound created an entire diaspora, but on the next island, the landscape itself becomes the art. Between Pico and Faial, a long, narrow island stretches across the Atlantic like the spine of a sleeping dragon. This is São Jorge, and locals have a name for it: Ilha do Dragão, the Dragon Island. The island is shaped by towering cliffs. Sheer drops of 500 meters plunge straight into the ocean along much of its coast. But at the base of these cliffs, something extraordinary has formed. They are called faixas, flat pieces of land created when landslides or lava flows fell from the cliffs above and pooled at the water's edge. Over centuries, they became fertile ground. Tiny communities built homes on them, farmed them, fished from them. São Jorge has 46 faixas along its northern coast. The most famous is Faja da Caldeira de Santo Cristo. It can only be reached on foot or by quad bike. At its heart lies a lagoon, the only one of its kind in the Azores, where clams grow in brackish water filtered through volcanic rock. On another faixa, travelers find something almost unbelievable: Faixa dos Vimes, home to the only artisanal coffee plantation in all of Europe. Coffee, grown in Atlantic volcanic soil, roasted by the Núñez family behind their own house. But São Jorge's most photographed secret lies on its north shore, Poça Simão Dias, a natural swimming pool set into black basalt columns, carved over millennia by the cooling of ancient lava flows. The water is crystal clear. The walls are vertical prisms of dark stone. Locals say it is the most beautiful natural pool in the archipelago. This island also produces the most famous cheese in the Azores, Queijo São Jorge, a buttery, aged cheese still made by methods dating back centuries, often served drizzled with local honey. São Jorge hides its treasures in cliffs, but on the next island, the Azores' greatest city stands proudly in the open. At the center of the archipelago lies an island of green patchwork fields, volcanic caves, and one of the most beautiful historic cities in all of Portugal. This is Terceira, and its capital, Angra de Heroísmo, has been a UNESCO World Heritage Site since 1983. For 400 years, from the 15th century onward, Angra was the Atlantic crossroads of the Portuguese Empire. Ships returning from the Americas, Africa, and Asia stopped here to resupply. Its harbor was protected by fortresses. Its warehouses held the wealth of 3 continents. Today, travelers walk through cobbled streets lined with pastel-colored houses, Renaissance churches, Baroque mansions, and gardens that have been tended continuously for more than 500 years. But Terceira's greatest wonder lies beneath its surface. In the center of the island, visitors descend into Algar do Carvão, an ancient volcanic chimney, 90 meters deep, draped in moss and stalactites. It is one of the only volcanic chimneys in the world open to the public. Nearby, Gruta do Natal, a lava tube formed thousands of years ago, its smooth basalt walls forming what feels like an underground cathedral. Above ground, Terceira reveals another kind of beauty, Serra do Cume, a viewpoint looking down over the island's patchwork fields, divided by low stone walls that have stood for centuries. Locals call it the Emerald Quilt of the Azores. The island is also famous for its festivals. Terceira's Holy Spirit celebrations, held in small chapels called Imperios, are some of the most vibrant cultural events in the Azores. Painted in bright reds, blues, and yellows, these small shrines mark nearly every village on the island. Terceira is the Azores remembered. The next island is the Azores forgotten, the smallest, whitest, strangest of them all. North of Terceira, in the quietest corner of the archipelago, lies an island locals call Ilha Branca, the White Island. Its name is Graciosa, and its whitewashed houses, windmills, and rolling pastures give it an atmosphere unlike anywhere else in the Azores. Graciosa is small, just 60 square kilometers. Its population has dwindled to fewer than 4,500 people, and yet the island holds one of the most extraordinary natural wonders in Europe. At the eastern end of Graciosa, travelers descend a spiral staircase of 183 steps. The stairwell bends downward through volcanic rock, deeper and deeper, until suddenly it opens into a vast cavern. This is Forna do Enxofre, the Sulphur Cave. Inside lies an underground lake. Light filters down through a natural opening in the rock above, illuminating a chamber so large it could hold an entire cathedral. The air carries the faint scent of sulfur. Steam drifts across the surface of the water. Before the staircase was built in the 1930s, local explorers were lowered into the cave on ropes. On the southern coast of Graciosa, travelers find another kind of wonder, termas do Carrapacho, natural thermal pools set directly into the rocks at the ocean's edge, where hot spring water mingles with the Atlantic tides. Above the baths, the small village of Carrapacho offers the quietest coastal views in the entire archipelago. Graciosa was designated a UNESCO Biosphere Reserve in 2007. Its windmills, imported from Flanders centuries ago, still stand along the coast as if frozen in time. Travelers who visit often describe the same sensation, that they have stepped into a Europe that no longer exists anywhere else. Graciosa is peace, but at the eastern edge of the archipelago, the oldest island of all carries Portugal's tallest waterfall. At the southeastern edge of the Azores, drier, sunnier, older than any of its siblings, lies an island the locals call Ilha do Sol, the island of the sun. This is Santa Maria, the oldest island in the archipelago, with rocks dating back more than 8 million years. It is the only Azorean island where real marine fossils have been found, and the only one with true white sand beaches. On its southeastern coast, a stream plunges from the cliffs straight into the Atlantic. It is called Cascata do Aveiro, and at 110 meters tall, it is the tallest waterfall in all of Portugal. The waterfall is part of the Azores Geopark, recognized as a geosite of regional significance and protected within the Bahia de Maia Landscape Reserve. To the north, Baía de São Lourenço, a volcanic amphitheater shaped like a perfect half-moon, its slopes covered in vineyards that climb from the sea to the cliff tops. The village at its base has fewer than 20 full-time residents. Locals call it the Bay of the Rising Sun because it faces east into the Atlantic dawn. Nearby, Praia Formosa, the clearest beach of the Azores. Its sand is pale and fine, fed by white sedimentary rocks that exist nowhere else in the archipelago. Its waters are calm, warm, and protected by the ruins of an old coastal fort. In the island's interior, travelers find something even stranger, Barreiro da Fanica, a field of red clay so vivid it is nicknamed the Red Desert of the Azores, a landscape more reminiscent of Mars than the mid-Atlantic. And in the south, Ribeira de Maloas, a cascade falling over ancient basalt columns, their prismatic shapes stacked like the pipes of a stone organ. Santa Maria is the Azores' beginning, but the journey ends where the continent itself ends. "500 kilometers west of São Miguel, at the far edge of the archipelago, two islands stand alone against the open Atlantic. These are Flores and Corvo, and they mark the westernmost point of Europe. Flores takes its name from the Portuguese word for flowers. Every summer, the island explodes into bloom. Blue and pink hydrangeas line every roadside, every cliff edge, every hillside. But Flores is most famous for its water. More than 20 waterfalls cascade down its cliffs directly into the ocean. In some places, they fall from heights of 300 meters. The most spectacular gather at Poço de Ribeira de Faial, a natural amphitheater, where a dozen cascades pour from a vertical cliff into a single pool of impossibly green water. The walls are draped in moss, ferns, and endemic plants found nowhere else on Earth. Along the coast, Faial Grande marks the literal western edge of the continent. Beyond this point, nothing but ocean, 3,000 kilometers of open Atlantic before the coast of Newfoundland. Flores has been designated a UNESCO Biosphere Reserve. Its landscapes are considered among the most untouched in Europe. And then, across a narrow channel, the smallest Azorean island of all. Corvo, 17 square kilometers, fewer than 400 inhabitants, a single village, one road. At the top of the island lies its greatest wonder, Caldeirão, a flooded volcanic crater nearly 2 kilometers wide, with small islets scattered inside. Locals say When viewed from above, the islets form a miniature map of the Azores itself. Corvo has no traffic lights, no supermarkets, no taxis. Life here follows the rhythm of the ocean and the wind. Flores and Corvo mark the end of the map. But the true wonder of the Azores is not the land. It is what waits beneath the waves. The waters around the Azores hold one of the richest concentrations of marine life in the entire North Atlantic. Researchers have documented around 29 species of whales and dolphins passing through these waters. That is roughly 1/3 of all cetacean species known to exist on Earth. Sperm whales, blue whales, the largest animals ever to have lived. Fin whales, sei whales, pods of common dolphins that can number in the hundreds. The reason lies in the geography of the ocean floor. The Azores sit on a massive underwater plateau. Just beyond it, the seafloor drops thousands of meters into the abyss. These deep water corridors funnel plankton, squid, and fish toward the islands, creating one of the Atlantic's great migration highways. For centuries, the Azoreans hunted these whales. Small wooden boats would row out from rocky harbors, guided by watchmen in cliff-top towers called vigias. The last whale hunt in the Azores took place in 1984. That same year, commercial whaling was banned. The boats were retired, the factories closed. Today, those same rocky harbors launch whale-watching tours instead. Marine biologists lead the excursions. Former whaling families now run conservation research. The vigias, once used to spot whales for harpooners, are now used to guide visitors safely to the animals. Tour operators on São Miguel, Pico, and Faial report sighting rates above 95% during peak season. Beneath the surface, the Azores offer some of the finest diving in the Atlantic. The Princess Alice Bank, a seamount 90 kilometers southwest of Pico, rises from abyssal depths to just 30 meters below the surface. Divers who visit describe encounters with schools of mobular rays, tuna, and barracuda, swirling above the summit like living clouds. The whales have always known something humans took centuries to discover. These islands were never supposed to exist at all. The Azores sit at one of the most geologically violent places on Earth. Deep beneath the Atlantic, three tectonic plates meet: the North American plate, the Eurasian plate and the African plate. They grind against each other, they pull apart, they collide. This is called a triple junction, and it is one of only 8 such places known to exist on the entire planet. Over the past 10 million years, this geological chaos has produced 1,766 volcanoes, 9 of them still active today. Their tops pierce the ocean surface, forming the 9 islands of the Azores. The islands themselves are only the peaks. Their bases plunge thousands of meters into the Atlantic, resting on a vast underwater platform rising from the ocean floor. The islands are still being built. In 2022, a seismic crisis on São Jorge produced more than 30,000 small earthquakes in a matter of weeks. Scientists monitored it closely. The magma beneath the island was moving. The earth was restless. And yet, for most of human history, nobody knew these islands existed. The official discovery came in 1427. A Portuguese navigator named Diogo de Silves, sailing for Prince Henry the Navigator, is believed to have landed on Santa Maria. The islands were uninhabited. No people, no buildings, only forest, birds, and silence. But in 2021, a scientific study challenged that story. Researchers analyzing ancient lake sediments on Corvo and elsewhere found traces suggesting that Norse seafarers, the Vikings, may have reached the Azores as early as the 9th century, 700 years before the Portuguese. If true, the Azores were not discovered, they were rediscovered. The Azores are not a finished place. They are a paradise, still being written, by fire, by water, by time itself. Nine islands in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Born from fire, shaped by water, hidden in plain sight at the edge of Europe. The twin lakes of Sete Cidades, mirrored in morning mist, the steaming valleys of Furnas, where the earth still cooks a village's dinner, the summit of Pico, rising higher than anywhere else in Portugal, the buried lighthouse of Capelinhos, standing as a silent monument to the power of the earth. The faixas, the cobbled streets of Angra, the sulfur cave of Graciosa, the red desert of Santa Maria, the waterfalls of Flores, pouring endlessly into the sea. And beneath it all, the whales, passing through waters that have carried them for longer than any human story. The Azores are not Europe's forgotten corner. They are the planet's honest memory. A place where the world's making has never stopped, where every cliff, every crater, every black sand beach is still being written by forces older than civilization. Travelers who find these islands often leave with the same feeling, that they have seen something rare, something still unfolding, something the rest of the world has not yet learned to name. The Azores Islands, Europe's secret volcanic Eden, still rising, still burning, still waiting.